Am I the a-hole for taking my name off the lease where my husband and his girlfriend live? Okay, buckle up, this one's a ride. I, 53F, have been married to my husband, 48M. Let's call him Richard, or as I now refer to him, Richard Noggin, for almost 17 years. Our marriage has never been perfect, especially not in the last 4 years. I had my suspicions that he was cheating, but I could never quite catch him. That is, until I ended up in the ER a couple of years ago with a very unpleasant, not-so-fresh feeling. You know the kind I'm talking about. Let me be clear, I loved this man. Deeply. But that ER trip? That was my breaking point. The final nail in the coffin. And the worst part? The woman he was cheating with at the time wasn't even the same one he's living with now. That current one, we'll call her Jane, 43F, came later. Anyway, I'd had enough. I told Richard the first was done. I was moving closer to my family and I started looking for jobs out of state. In 2023, I packed my bags and left. I moved 1,100 miles away and took a 1-year contract, thinking I was starting fresh and finally choosing myself. But even after I left, Richard and I stayed in contact. We texted daily. Some of it was arguing, sure, but some of it sounded like he was genuinely remorseful. He even talked about wanting to reconcile. He swore he was living alone, promised there was no one else in our home. Spoiler alert, Richard is a chronic liar. One night, I couldn't take the uncertainty anymore. So I got in my car and drove. All 1,100 miles back to our home. I arrived at 5:30 a.m., exhausted but determined. And wouldn't you know it, Richard was already up, standing on the porch in his robe. Suspicious, right? Yeah, I thought so too. He clearly wasn't expecting me. I pushed past him and went inside. And there she was.
Jane.
Standing in my kitchen, cooking in my robe like she belonged there. I introduced myself with a smile that could cut glass. Hi, I'm Dick's wife. How are you? Needless to say, it wasn't a warm reunion. I had to leave and find a hotel, then an Airbnb, because apparently Jane had been living in our house for weeks. She moved in 3 weeks after I left. Let that sink in. Over the next couple of years, it was chaos. She was there, then she wasn't. Then she was back again. Rinse, repeat. Suddenly they're in love. Sure. January whatever. Now, here's where the lease comes in. My name was still on the lease for the house we had shared for over a decade. On paper, and even off paper, Richard didn't qualify on his own. He runs a cash-only mechanic business out of the garage, and I can't produce income verification or bank statements. So, me being the decent human I am, left my name on the lease, even after everything, so he wouldn't get kicked out. I know I shouldn't have. I know I didn't owe him that kindness. But I'm just not the kind of person who wants to see someone become homeless, even if they've screwed me over. Well, about 9 months ago, I moved back to the area for a new job. I thought I might finally find some peace. But instead, Richard tried to play both sides. He told me he still wanted me, told Jane the same thing, and continued lying to both of us. He wanted to keep us both hanging on like some twisted emotional buffet. Then I got a new job offer, $24,000 more a year, and centrally located between all 3 sites I'd be working at. I couldn't turn it down. It was a fresh start again. As luck would have it, the same landlord who leased us our first home had a bigger, nicer property in the perfect location. I called her and explained everything. How I no longer lived at the old house, how I needed a new place. She's known me for over a decade and knows I always pay my bills and take care of my space. And that's how I ended up standing in my new home, typing this to all you Reddit potatoes. Now here comes the drama. Mr. Noggin, is furious. He says I did this on purpose to make him homeless. He's telling anyone who'll listen that I'm cruel, spiteful, heartless. But the truth? I just finally had the courage to take my name off that lease. I filed for divorce.
I stopped being his safety net.
I stopped being the financial cushion for a man who wanted the benefits of a wife without actually having a wife. He's now scrambling to apply for the house he's lived in for 10 years. And guess what? He can't qualify. No stubs, no banking info, no paper trail. Because he's been living off cash and lies. Now he's spinning this story like I kicked him and his precious Jane out on the streets. But really, all I did was stand up for myself after years of being walked on, cheated on, and used. I gave him way more grace than he deserved. I've spent the last year untangling myself from a trauma bond so thick it could choke a bear. So, am I the a-hole for finally taking my name off the lease and leaving him to fend for himself with his girlfriend? Because I don't think I am. But he sure wants the world to think I'm the villain.